Hello, this is Daisy Joy at Adventure Acres, and yes, this is a homesteading channel, and yes, I do talk a lot about multiple sclerosis, because I have multiple sclerosis, and it's part of my story. Unfortunately, the reason I'm talking about multiple sclerosis today is not because I have multiple sclerosis, but because I found out last night that my sister is now also diagnosed with MS, which got me right in the feels. I've been doing a lot of processing since last night. It just kind of brings back everything from when I was first diagnosed, and I've been, just kind of going over it all in my brain and trying to absorb everything, and I was able to talk to her on the phone this morning, and she's just one of my most favoriteest people in the whole wide world, and she's so full of hope and faith, and I'm gonna kick this in the bahookie sort of attitude, and I feel like, I want to, be helpful and encouraging and supportive and do whatever I can to, be those things. And so, while we were talking, one of the things that she asked about was if I had resources available so that I could direct so that she could direct people to places that would help them understand what multiple sclerosis is. So I remember back when I was first diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I was like, so I have MS, and it's this thing where bad things happen, because I don't really know what it does. It's, like one of those things that's a bad one. Yeah. MS is kind of grouped into this like little ball of categories that everybody's like, yeah, I know that's one of those bad ones, like Parkinson's and Lou Gehrig's and muscular dystrophy. It's kind of like all tossed over into a pile, and they're like, yeah, those are the bad ones, you don't want those. And I'm just like, I don't know anything about MS, and now I have it, and so I have to learn everything that there is to know. Well, I've had a few years to find out about it, and so if I can share some of my insights, I'm going to do that. I'm going to help. And I think it's really good to know about, one of the things that I kind of am really conscientious about is learning about other things that people have, because I think it's good to understand, because you can have more sympathy and empathy, and you can have more compassion if you have more understanding. And so in order to help spread awareness and understanding, I thought it might be helpful to do like an MS for Dummies video, which doesn't really sound very nice, actually. I've never really liked that. So maybe like an MS for intelligent people who like to keep informed about things that are happening to people they care about, which is kind of a wordy title. So I'll work on that. So the basics of multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune condition. Autoimmune means that your immune system attacks yourself, which is really rough, because it's like your immune system in a typical person is like, hey, there's a germ. Not today, germ. You're out of here. And I'm going to kick you and take you out, germ. And then it's like, oh, there's a virus. I see you. I'm going to take you out. But my immune system is just like, oh, look, brain. You better watch it. And I'm like, whoa, I need that. What are you doing? Autoimmune. Don't even get me started. Okay, so autoimmune means your immune system attacks yourself. Specifically, in multiple sclerosis, you have, let's see if I can find a good example here. You have nerves in your brain that transmit electrical signals, much like this cord for my sewing machine will transmit electrical signal from the wall. You plug it in the wall, the electricity scoots along the end to where the sewing machine is and makes it do what it's supposed to do. It's an amazing thing, unless. Now, when you have MS, your immune system decides that there's this protective covering that goes around the nerves in your brain, and it's called the myelin sheath. And I believe it's a specific protein that it targets. And your immune system says, oh yeah, nerve coverings, I'm gonna chew you off. I'm gonna destroy you. You're going down. And then your nerves are like, I don't know what's happening here, because everything that was meant to protect the signal is now gone. So if I stripped the covering over this cord, for instance, and then I plugged it in and hoped that my sewing machine would work, it would not be great. You plug it in, and instead of the sewing machine humming along and creating beautiful quilts or whatnot, there could be sparks, misfires. Your sewing machine is not going to work properly, ideally. Sometimes you can still get it to do what it needs to do, but sometimes it's completely shot. And so that's what MS is like. It's when the nerve coating has been destroyed or injured, and so your electrical signal does not go through properly. So what can it affect? Well, and here's the other thing. How is it diagnosed? They're kind of tied together. When you have multiple sclerosis, there are some things that are easier. They're kind of the hallmark things. Some of them are symptoms with your optic nerve, which is called optic neuritis, where you have inflammation in your optic nerve because of the damage around the sheath. And you have vision problems. It can cause blindness or vision issues, numbness, paralysis, fatigue. You know, there are a number of symptoms because your brain is in charge of everything, and the nerves in your brain are in charge of everything. And so if your immune system decides that it's going to attack the myelin on your nerves, the symptoms will relate to the area of the brain that it's attacking at that time. So for instance, one of my symptoms was that I had a sharp pain in the bottom of my left foot. And so what happened was my immune system attacked the nerve that would normally send pain signals. It attacked the coating around the nerve that would normally send the pain signals. And so there was a disconnect, there was a misfire. And so that nerve was telling me pain, 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 there's bad things happening, when really my foot's fine. Why are you telling me it hurts? It's not hurting. The signal was disrupted. And so that's one of the things that can happen. And the thing is, it's different for every person because your immune system can attack such random places in your brain. So for some person could have paralysis in their legs and have to use a wheelchair. Another person could just have random twitches in their cheek. You don't know how it's going to end up. You don't know what the symptoms are going to be. So it's kind of a waiting game. You don't know what's going to happen. And when the symptoms begin, it's called an exacerbation. When your immune system is actively attacking the myelin sheath and causing those symptoms to flare up, that's called an exacerbation or a hit or a flare up. There are different terminologies around that kind of explain, what's going on. It's basically when you're having an active symptom. It's an exacerbation. There are different kinds of multiple sclerosis. There's relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis, which is the kind that I have, and most likely the kind that my sister has, which means that you have exacerbations, and then usually there's a after the active damage is done, there can be restoration of those abilities, or the symptoms will go away or lessen, and then you kind of start over, and then you have a healing period or a kind of respite between attacks, and that is relapsing remitting. There is also primary progressive, which means that you have damage that occurs and there isn't the restoration, and so that damage sticks. For instance, one of the things that happened to me was that I had significantly deteriorated vision in my right eye. That's why I have glasses, actually, because I had an optic neuritis. I had significantly deteriorated vision in my right eye, and if it were primary progressive, I wouldn't have gotten back as much vision as I have. It would have just stayed at the worst part, you know, as I understand it. There's also another kind, which is secondary progressive, which means that you have relapsing remitting, which is the kind that I have, and it switches over. So it would be as if when symptoms happen, it would be like primary progressive, where there's damage and then it doesn't repair afterwards. So those are the three typical kinds. There are other, variations that they talk about, but those are the ones that are most commonly known and talked about. They don't understand what causes multiple sclerosis. There are certain factors that can predispose you to having it. For instance, one thing is geography. You're much more likely to end up with multiple sclerosis if you live in the northern hemisphere. Another thing is vitamin D deficiency. Another thing is genetic markers. They're finding correlation between certain genetic markers, which don't necessarily mean that it's hereditary, but it can be found in clusters, they call it, where there are certain factors that people share, and so in that area there are more people who have it. And so there's still a lot of research involved in trying to find out the source of it, so they can understand it more and prevent it if possible, but also to have an awareness of where to look and how to help people get treatment earlier too. And so those are a few things that they're kind of looking into when they do research into MS. There is not, at this point, there is no cure for multiple sclerosis. There are treatments that are available. There are different options for treatment, and I will share some of those real quick. Some of the treatment options are, all of them are usually targeting the immune system, kind of like, okay, immune system, you done wrong. You done wrong. You get a timeout. Like simmer down, go cool off, go walk it off, and we can talk again. But so the kind of treatment that I'm on is called Plegridy. It's an interferon, and I have a shot that I have every other week. In fact, I probably could show you. It leaves these kind of ornery big red blotches. It's an auto-injector shot that I have. Some people have the shot that you get every day. Some people have an oral medication that they can take. And the purpose of this treatment is to hold off in between exacerbations. There's no cure, but they can at least slow down the progression of the illness. And so that is what the treatment is for that. As far as symptoms go, such a wide variety of possibilities. I've had quite a number of symptoms that were not, I didn't realize that they were symptoms at the time, but looking back and what I know about multiple sclerosis now, I can easily identify them as symptoms and possible exacerbations. It's possible that I could have had it as far back as when I was a kid. It's not really known what triggers the onset of it, and there are certain things that predispose you, as I was talking about before, but that isn't, just because you have those things that predispose you doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get MS. They're still looking into what triggers it. It's kind of a switch that flips, and they don't know for sure what that specific trigger is. There are some theories, some Some think that it's triggered by a virus. Some people think it's triggered by environmental factors. There are a lot of theories, but there is really no solid information that can definitively say one way or another how it kicks off. And so the people are asking, especially now that my sister has it, is it hereditary? Is it, and the rest of my family members, there are some people who are kind of wondering. They are found in family clusters sometimes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're in the family, you're going to end up with MS. It may mean that you may be predisposed to it, but it doesn't mean that you're a, definite shoo-in. It's really complicated, and it's really hard to know how to deal with it, partly because you don't know what to expect, because it could be you're going along and everything's fine, and all of a sudden you have a stark raving headache of doom and your eye hurts and you lose your vision, which is not ideal. And so things like that. So there are certain things that you have to do to kind of prepare for possibilities. One of the things that we do here is that we simplify things. Things need to be simple and streamlined, and I've talked about this in some of my videos. Easy access to communication. We have a way, if I do happen to lose my vision, for instance, it's not as if I'm expecting that symptom to happen, but we had precautions set up, knowing that, okay, troubleshooting, what can I do if I'm in a situation like that and I suddenly lose my vision? Then I have it all set up so that I can say, I can talk to my device, verbally, and my phone will call my husband, and I will not have to, because I was like, oh, if I have my phone out and I can't see it, then what would I do? So little things like that you can plan ahead of time, and usually it's not all of the big bad things, and it doesn't all happen at once. And when you're first diagnosed and you're looking at all the material and trying to process, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to me? I don't know what my symptoms are going to be, or even how many I'm going to have. I could have some people have very mild cases where it's just, a bothersome thing, and every once in a while there's something that comes up. Some people, it's pervasive and seems to define their stories, and what I've learned is that I will deal with what I have right now when I have MS, because one of the things that triggers your immune system to start acting off is stress. So it's a bad idea to sign up for, oh no, what if this happens, or what if that happens, or what if I lose my ability to walk? No, don't do that. Just enjoy what you have now while you have it, and hope that it's okay. It's going to be all right. If you sign up for all the things before they would ever even happen, and they don't happen, then you've just wasted all of that energy into worrying, when you could be using it for something more fun, like sewing or cookies. I don't know. But so there are a lot of questions that people have asked me about multiple sclerosis. One of the most common ones is, what are some of your symptoms? And as far as my symptoms go, they're going to be different from other people's. It's considered kind of a snowflake disorder, because each person's situation is different. They have different symptoms. My MS is going to be different than someone else's MS. And so if you want to know what someone is going through who has MS, what their symptoms are, you're going to have to ask them specifically. I can't tell you what someone else's multiple sclerosis is going to look like. I can tell you that it's very frustrating sometimes, and that it's very uncertain, and that it's something that you think about but try not to obsess over. I can tell you about those parts of MS, But as far as specifics from person to person, it's going to be different. And so it's kind of hit or miss. I can tell you that I have learned a lot since I have had multiple sclerosis. It has been an opportunity to understand what my priorities are. It has helped me to have a greater focus on things that matter to me. It has helped me to learn how to just enjoy things that I never really thought about, that I always took for granted. I lost my color for a while, and I lost my sense of taste and smell. There are things that you lose, and especially with the kind of MS that I have, when you lose something and then it comes back, it's like a gift that you didn't even know you had in the first place, and you get to see it for what it really is. So while there are struggles and while there are challenges, there are also really amazing things that give you incredible insights into understanding life. It's really kind of a poignantly beautiful and tragic thing. And one of the best things when you have multiple sclerosis is to be able to have a positive attitude, even though it's not a positive situation. I don't understand it, I don't like it, but I'm going to deal with it, and I'm going to trust that everything will work out okay, and I can handle it with my, assistance, because that helps. Oh, but ultimately, multiple sclerosis is complicated, and they don't know a lot about it, but it's doable, and there are ways that they can help you with it. You can still lead a very full life with multiple sclerosis. Now, I'm not going to say that it's going to look like it does in the commercials for the treatments, and you're looking, oh, Tech Federa, look, there's people kayaking. No, that's a little shifty. Some people are going to have harder challenges than others. I have a pretty rough case of it, and the areas that are damaged can, make for a lot of trouble. And part of it is that I've had it as long as I did without it being diagnosed, and so it ran unchecked for a long time, and so that when there's more accumulation of damage, then it's harder to, you have more systems that are kind of problematic. But thankfully, I am glad that my sister was diagnosed earlier on than I was, and that she had a quicker access to her diagnosis, which is kind of an abstract thought that, even though I had to go through all the process of the diagnosis and all that, it helped my sister possibly to be diagnosed sooner, and so I would be happy to go through that all over again if that would help her in any way. Oh, but good gracious, MS is serious, but it's not considered fatal. It's not as big and bad as some other things are that some people face. And so I not to minimize it at any rate, if somebody is struggling with it out there and has other things, and there are secondary things that can happen. While it's not fatal itself, it can lead to things that are possibly fatal. For instance, in my case, it's because of the autoimmune dysfunction. My immune system was too busy beating me up that I had the infection in my leg that could have spread through my body, and all the secondary things can wipe you out. But here's the thing. You can have a secondary issue from a paper cut. You can die from a paper cut, if you get an infection in your body. A common cold can lead you to peril, so it would be unfortunate if the only, if you think MS is going to wipe me out because it has the possibility of having something that's worse. I can't live like that. That's not productive. You deal with things one thing at a time as they come at you, and you don't sign up for the what ifs, and you just continue on with what you've got, and you enjoy what you have ahead of you. And multiple sclerosis is not an end game diagnosis. You know, many people have very full lives and are very productive and have a lot of insight that they get because of MS that is unique to them and their situation. And so that's it. It also makes you really, really stubborn. Maybe it's like, okay, this is just my own perspective. It makes me really, really want to go after and accomplish the things that I am looking forward to doing. So it gives me resolve. It can be, you know, any struggle that you have can be taken and used for something good if you learn from it, and if you are open to understanding what it means for you and the possibilities of just growing and being stronger. And it's taught me a lot. So multiple sclerosis, while is very serious, and not to make light of it, it is very serious, but it's doable, and it's very interesting adventure to go through, I suppose. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I would definitely encourage anybody who does have it, or anyone who's struggling. Let's face it, everybody has struggles, and some of them are more apparent than others. And, you know, the important thing is that we can learn and understand and encourage and to prop other people up and, you know, share our stories. And so that's MS for intelligent people who like to keep informed about things that may affect people they care about. Yay, I remember the title. Probably, mostly. So, anyway, if you have any comments about multiple sclerosis, please post in the comments below. If you have any questions or comments or, you know, statements you'd like to share with the rest of the class, feel free to comment below. And in the meantime, thanks for tuning in, and pray for my sister, as I will be doing too. And I hope you have a good day, good weekend. Signing off for now.